You're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to RBLR Lightning. As always, my name is Jake Ricker. Alongside me is Jose Mataro. It's Matt Gannett. Guys, welcome back to the show. We have another week of Lightning hockey to talk about as we get into full swing of the season. We got a lot to talk about in this show. So make sure you like and subscribe right here on YouTube or wherever you may be watching, and give us a follow on social media so you don't miss out on future episodes. But first and foremost, how you guys doing today? Joe, I see you laughing already over there.
Because Matt looks so damn miserable. I gotta say, for myself personally, my allergies are exploding like they do at the start of every new season or changing of the clocks. They're blowing up more than a 3-goal lead to start the second period. Oh, too soon?
Yeah, way
Jeez.
too soon, man. I mean, daylight savings time, the light is leaving us early, just like the light has left my eyes. Like it's rough over here.
For those who may not know, we normally record these shows on a Monday, but because of the game, we decided to record after the game had happened. So this is happening right after the loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, which we'll get to in a little bit. Is there a happy song we can just sing? You know, Kumbaya, my love? Is that what we need to do for 5 minutes so we can all feel a little bit better
How about
after
Sweet
that?
Caroline?
I swear to God, I knew you were gonna say it. I knew you were gonna
No.
say it.
No. All right, let's jump right into it and start talking about this week because there's a lot to go over. And starting off with the game versus the Seattle Kraken, in which a game that also went to overtime as the Lightning fell behind early in this one. They come back. They do end up tying the game in the third period thanks to Brandon Hagel, but the Lightning barely possessed the puck into overtime. And once again, it's Seattle who comes away with the victory. So the Lightning get a point out of this game, but it's more of the same overtime struggles for the Lightning in this one, guys, and it ends up just being a frustrating loss.
This Seattle game, it wasn't that bad. I guess we can look at worse games that happened this week. It's really not too terrible to, walk away with 1 point from that. Of course, they've had their struggles early on this year, but I don't know. To me, it was kind of an unlucky game. It wasn't a bad game by any stretch. There were a lot of missed opportunities, even in overtime. But just unlucky is kind of the word that I walk away from this game with. Just a lot of chances that they couldn't convert on, posts here and there, and just got, rather unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, there's also another game getting outshot miserably. Well, I wouldn't say miserably. It was outshot by 6 shots, but allowing way too many shots. 43 shots on goal is just more of that same hockey that has been getting the Lightning in trouble. I was lucky enough to go to this game, so it was kind of fun to be there for some of it, but at the same rate, as soon as you saw Glendening lose the face-off for overtime, kind of knew that that was gonna be it.
The Lightning have possessed the puck in overtime this entire season, I think, for maybe 15 seconds. And that might be being generous at this point. They can't get control of the puck. Once they lose the faceoff, it's over. I mean, that's basically what happened. Joe, you mentioned getting outshot badly. Yes, at the end of the day, it was only 5 shots. I think you're thinking of the first period, though, where shots were 20-9 in favor of Seattle. And that's when, things were looking really bad. And the Lightning were able to get a hold of things, though, and start to come back. The Lightning have been such a weird team this year to me, and we'll get to some of this in these later games, but it's never one period with the Lightning. Sometimes they look great in the first, and then they collapse later, and then sometimes they don't look good early, but then they start to come back. They just can't get that full 60 minutes, as we've talked about so many times on this show. And don't get me wrong, it's really hard to play a perfect full 60 minutes. It's basically impossible. But when we say that, obviously we're referring to you want to put your best foot forward a period for as long as you possibly can. And the Lightning just have not been able to do that for, I feel like, any of the games this year, maybe one or two where they really played well, but it has not happened often. It's just been a frustrating stretch. And that continued for the Lightning as they went onto the road now to take on the Columbus Blue Jackets. And they lose this one by a final score of 4-2 in a game where, again, first period, Columbus takes an early lead, but then the Lightning come back. They take a 2-1 lead. All right, they're playing better. And then the third period happened where Columbus just kind of took over this game and ran away with it. And they get another win. And the Lightning, to this point, still winless on the road in that game. Joe, how did you feel after watching this one?
I mean, that was a disappointing loss, especially just kind of imploding, like you said, in the third period there. Anytime that you get goals that are relatively close together, it's like it was less than 3 minutes apart. It gives such a momentum boost to the opposite team that's really hard to get back on your game. Stamkos getting another goal was good because he was starting to drought a little bit there, but I don't know. It seemed like they were just having trouble in general getting kind of organized against a team that you would think on paper they should be able to just outskill.
Yeah, for the first time in a while, we got shut down. I mean, plain and simple, that third period, there was nothing going on. The Blue Jackets just straight up shut us down, which is typically where one of our strengths lie. We like to kind of claw our way back into games. Of course, holding a lead is a different story. Hopefully that's not an issue later on this week, but usually, they're able to mount some sort of a comeback. Even if they don't get the job done, they at least look good doing it. This game wasn't that. The third period was just, kind of apathetic. Nothing was really going. The Blue Jackets, despite them being potentially maybe another lottery team this year, they played really well against us, and they always seem to, really play well against us. We're going to ignore that playoff a couple of years ago, but again, just the word I'm taking away from this game is just shut down. We had our luck early in the game and then just let the lead escape us. And then when when it push came to shove and we were trying to claw the way back, nothing going.
It's been just a frustrating thing for the Lightning on the road. And this goes back to last year as well, where the Lightning did not have a good record on the road. I think they just barely finished over 500 on the road, if I remember correctly, or right around 500. It was a struggle. And it's been that way again for the Lightning on the road. They just can't seem to get it done. I don't know what it is. If it's the fans at Amalie are just that amazing, which they are. They're just really helping out the Bolts, but it's another loss. And things got more interesting for the Lightning. It did not get any more simpler. But the good news is this time they brought home the win against the Ottawa Senators, picking up their first win on the road by a final score of 6-4 in what was just a back and forth, crazy type of game. And then you had, of course, Brady Tkachuk, who was just all over the place, yelling at the Lightning players. The Lightning players were yelling back at him, throwing some punches, some pushing and shoving. And at the end of the day, the Lightning offense comes through huge in this one with 6 goals. And despite the defensive struggles, the offense was able to pull the team above water and get a big win, a much-needed win on the road.
I tell you, is there a more punchable face in the entire NHL than Brady Tkachuk? I mean, I think that
name a couple.
you can name a couple. For me, he's takes
up there.
the cake.
I'm with Joe.
The terrible thing too, though, is that he kind of started backing it up when he was talking trash to, I think, who went to the box? Was it Jeannot went to the box? Yeah, he backed it up with a goal to get them, to really kind of get them back in it. I think that brought it within 1 goal at the time for the Senators. Mm-hmm. That was, I mean, it was a good battle. The Sens are really a team that are kind of surprising to me, where they can be really good at times and really, really bad. I thought that they would probably be pretty much a 500 team, and I guess if they would have won just one more game, they would be. We have such a tough division in the Atlantic. There's literally only one team below 500. It's the Senators. They're one game outside of 500, and excuse me, they easily could be, right there in the mix with everybody else. They've got a lot of explosiveness, and one of the players that found his scoring touch and has been playing really well against the Lightning is Joseph. Him getting, I think he got at least one assist in this game, right? Yeah, he got one assist against the Lightning. How he started turning it on against his former team, it's cool to see. But as long as they keep getting W's, or the Lightning keep getting W's against them, I guess that's what really matters.
Yeah, it's really only good to see if we win. Matthew Joseph, for whatever reason, has had just such great success against his former team, the Lightning. I mean, it seems like every game, like he's one of the most noticeable players out there. He's actually having a really good start to his season, not even just against the Lightning, but he's got, a couple more goals, couple assists. He's not doing too bad. So we always like to see that, but just not at the Lightning's expense. And the Senators, like you said, Joe, the Atlantic Division is really tough right now. There's really not a single bad team. You can make the argument for Montreal playing above their weight class right now, and the Senators may be a little below where they should be ranked, and they're just kind of getting pulled through the ringer right now. They just got fined a first-round draft pick. They just got a player suspended for 41 games. They fired their GM.
Yep.
I mean, they're just kind of having, a whole bunch of issues off the ice right now, and of course that, it will travel onto the ice, even though it's not anything to really be happening with the team. Sometimes bad vibes, bad energy can really do a lot to, hinder a team. And, luckily the Lightning took advantage of that. Defense and goaltending is not really where their strengths lie, the Senators, and they took advantage of that, thankfully. But yeah, they really showed their offensive prowess as well. Our defense wasn't really all that well, and there was, it was an entertaining game. There's a little bit to like about everything, a little bit of everything in that game, fights, hits, lead changes. It was a crazy game. But again,
one of the most entertaining games of the season, I'd say.
Absolutely. It absolutely was. So at least thankfully we could walk away with 2 points and, it not be a super, super close game. It was still not dominant, but, you established your presence. They were the lead team, the right team to win that game.
Well, I do want to point out 3 statistics on that game. One, that the Lightning, I guess the power play went 1 for 3, so continuing some good numbers there. The penalty kill was 3 for 4, so still not bad, but I don't think they had let in a power play goal for a couple of games before that. Let me just double check. I got them right here. They let 1 in I guess they let 2 in for Seattle, none for Columbus, and then Senators just the 1. But this is also the second game of the season where the Lightning chased off the starting goaltender. And, maybe it's something that we get to talk about again.
Well, Joe, you're absolutely right. It is something we get to talk about again because we get to the game that I think is the toughest pill to swallow for Lightning fans right now because it's the most recent one. Is the Lightning lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs 6-5 in overtime. And this was basically a carbon copy of the last time the Lightning played the Toronto Maple Leafs. A little more goals in this one, as the last time it was 3-1. This time it was 4-1. But the Lightning get off to an unbelievable start. And once again, Samsonov is run out of the building. He struggles tremendously as the Lightning just light him up. And then Joseph Woll comes into the game and is literally a wall, and the Lightning cannot get anything past him. They do eventually get 1 or 2, but, for the majority of the game, he shuts it down. The Leafs fire back. They come out swinging. They eventually take a lead early into the third period, and then it's overtime. The Lightning do tie it up, but overtime again, and the Lightning just cannot win a game if their lives depended on it in overtime. I mean, I said this, guys, to some of my friends while I was watching this game. I'm like, when they scored that tying goal, I'm like, I'm more concerned now than I was a couple minutes ago because I know how this story ends when we get into overtime. I mean, it's been frustrating. And Lightning, I don't think they even touched the puck in that overtime. Maybe for like a split second.
They loosened it up. That was it.
It's a good way of putting it.
it's been frustrating. And I think you guys mentioned all the good Atlantic teams. I think that's what's made this stretch harder. Like, listen, the Lightning are pretty in a good spot considering they don't have Andre Vasilevsky and they've been getting a lot of points despite all the losses. They're losing in overtime, which is still a good thing, but it's these Atlantic teams and fighting against them. And I think that's what's made this tough, is that knowing these games are huge early in the season because of how good this division really is. We don't get the luxury of playing the Sharks every week and being able to pick up on them. It's one the consolation prize, right? At least we're not the Sharks. Things are not going well over there. But Matt, I'll start with you. How do you feel after this game? This was a tough one.
Well, you said it was a kind of a carbon copy of the other game against the Leafs. No, it was more of a carbon copy of games 3 and 4 of the playoffs last year. It was
every single time we play the Leafs.
It was a 2-goal lead. It was a 2-goal lead for the Lightning, and they ended up losing in overtime. And it was a 3-goal lead for the Lightning in Game 4. They ended up losing in overtime. At least we scored, a tying goal in regulation to get it to overtime. But again, we fall short. Just don't even touch the puck. Same story, different day. It's getting kind of annoying, kind of repetitive at this point. And of course, to boot, it's against the Leafs. So that's just, an extra kick while we're down. The overtime issues, I don't know where to begin and I don't know where to stop. Of course, we can all trace it back to the opening faceoff, but thank God overtime is 5-on-5 in the playoffs and not 3-on-3. But we got to make it there before we can start talking about that. And I'm not in panic mode or anything, but man, holding a lead is obviously the biggest issue right now. Overtime, yes, that is an issue, but holding the lead in regulation is the absolute biggest issue right now. I don't know where to begin. I don't know what the issues are, but there's a lot of issues that we need to take care of. Joe, you're kind of the analytic guy on this podcast here. Like, where do these issues start holding the lead?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it has been what we've said over and over about getting back on your heels. The other thing is that they allowed, really, they are getting torn up by the combination of Nyes, Matthews, and who else was on that line? Marner. And the three of them just talked themselves up in the locker room during the intermission and came out flying, and impressively so. They each had over 20 minutes of ice time in this game, and it's a lot of skating. They all ended up a +4. When you're skating that much, you'd think that these guys would slow down, but they seem to have built momentum instead. The key is to get these players, you have to be physical with them, and you have to stay man on. If you lose them for a second, they're going to use their speed to change an angle. One of them's going to open up. And that's what you saw for a lot of their goals, was somebody slipping through, somebody losing coverage, and it happens again and again. And like, shut up, you can't let Austin Matthews shoot the puck. If he's shooting the puck, it's probably going to go. If it doesn't go in, it's going to go somewhere dangerous. The Lightning got to keep that killer instinct to just, continue dominating a game, continue pushing, and, not let off with what they had. If you look at also the overtime, that really is the same thing that we've seen with all the other overtimes. You got to win the face-off. You have to win the face-off. Now, when people come up with superlatives like they don't even get any shots off, they never do this, you can't do anything when you don't have the puck. Toronto only shot twice, and one of the shots went in. The other shot happened to carry them out to the side to allow Toronto to maintain possession. Yes, there was blown coverage on the final goal, where Sergachev probably should have gone up to the front of the net, as I believe it was Hagel or that was back checking on their guy. You saw that the Lightning also did change the way that they were playing when they were defensive on the overtime. They put a heck of a lot more pressure on the skaters of Toronto in Toronto's defensive zone, trying to force a turnover. And then they actually got back pretty well when they'd escape coverage. It just a bad handoff, and then these guys outskill you. It's frustrating to watch But I do like the takeaway that, you know, the Lightning can absolutely hang with them in a high-speed game like this. And honestly, that fifth goal was awful that the Maple Leafs scored. It was probably like the fourth or fifth goal that I believe Johansson has let in that's gone far side across his body, beaten his glove. It's kind of a known weakness, and I think, you know, in like a month or two when we have Vasi back, that'll be the difference in these games. And instead of getting, you know, so frustrated with how the Lightning weren't able to win, all these mistakes kind of disappear with him being in net, where we forget about them. They're still existing, but he covers for them, so we're not as so we're happy at the end of the night because the win column gets another check in it.
And I will say that this is probably the first game that Johansson has actually let us down, where he hasn't played above his pay grade. I don't know if I'm alone saying that, but there were a couple weak goals, like that fifth goal and Matthews' second goal of the night, the one that went 5-hole. Both of those were very, very stoppable shots, I think. It was
that one I even give him a pass on, because you can't let Matthews in one-on-one with the goalie. That's, you know, a 50-50 on in a very elite goal scorer.
That's fair. I still think it was a little soft, but I'm not gonna, you know, criticize him. We can point the blame at pretty much any and everyone on the team. But you mentioned a little bit earlier in your quick little rant there. And I guess it wasn't a rant, but physicality. And I know it's kind of a cliche to say, oh, this team needs to play a little more physical, but it seems like they haven't been playing physical really at all this year. Like, I can't be the only one saying that. And again, I know it's super cliche. They got to lay the body. They got to play more physical. But am I the only one thinking this? Because I really think that they're
Paul
not.
had 7 hits.
Did he?
And Austin Watson was playing in this game. Mikey Eastimont was out of the lineup as a hit what we believe healthy scratch. And they put Austin Watson in. Why? Because Austin Watson, all the guy does is fight and throw the body around. So they put a guy in there who's a more physical forward. It clearly ended up not helping them in the long run, but they were definitely focused on that physical. That's why I think Austin Watson's in the lineup in the first place.
Get someone bigger in there, someone that you know, if Revo decided to go, you know, you had 2 potential people to answer the bell. I will say that, like, Tyler Mott was looking good. He was looking noticeable out there, and having him come back, I think really can help shake some stuff up. He didn't end up with a point, didn't end up with a minus either, but what he was doing was really noticeable to me.
Not having a minus in a game where 5 goals were scored, that's impressive in regulation. That's impressive for Mott. Here's where I'm at. So I think you guys have made a lot of great points. Listen, at the end of the standing, the Lightning are in a division playoff spot right now. I mean, there is no reason to panic whatsoever. Lightning have shown that they can be a fantastic. We saw it in the first period of this game. I mean, they dominated the Toronto Maple Leafs early in this game. They've done it a couple of times now. But yes, Vasilevsky, when he comes back, could be able to cover up some of these holes that Johansson just. Although, again, I give a lot of credit to Johansson. He's stepped up big time. I mean, nobody expected this from him. He did have a little bit of a shaky game today, but overall, he's been great. But my question is, where are the alarm bells here for the Lightning? Because you go up 4-1 in that first period, and then the Leafs score and they get 4-2. It's like, okay, you know, let's keep it. Oh, now it's 4-3. Oh, now it's 4-4. Oh, now it's 5-4. At what point are we taking a timeout here or saying something in the locker room and saying, hey, we have taken our foot off the gas. We have completely lost control of this game. That's where the frustration, and this happened multiple times for the Lightning. I mean, there's got to be some point, and even if Vasi's in the net and he does bail you out, you don't want that to be consistently happening throughout the entire season and maybe even the playoffs. That's something that I think is the big thing for me and has got to be addressed. You cannot go up 4-1 in the National Hockey League and then constantly blow leads, because teams are going to make you pay, and they will cost you potentially a playoff spot or a playoff series like we saw last year against Toronto.
So I think those alarm bells started going off probably after the Columbus game, because you saw a lot of line changes
they didn't show it.
coming. What's that?
They didn't show it. If those alarm bells were going off, they must have been soft.
Well, no, I mean they changed. Coop changed the lines. There's a lot of different pairings, a lot of different people playing with with new players in the Ottawa game. They got the win in the Ottawa game. They still had different matchups and different line combinations for Maple Leafs. What you're saying about is an in-game adjustment, which that's always been a pretty big criticism of Coop for a long time, is that when it comes to in-game adjustments, he more or less preaches to play your game and, stick to the game plan rather than trying to make mid-game adjustments where you've got different matchups, different lines. He does play with it some, and you will see him change combinations up, but that has been a long time criticism of Cooper, trying to get a momentum change with his team.
Here's a quote from John Cooper after the overtime loss tonight. He basically said the Leafs turned it up a notch and we sat back and watched them. That was pretty much it, which I mean, I can kind of agree with. The
He
Lightning
watched the same game I did.
Right. They just sat back and watched. And it's like, man, if they just keep their pressure on for at least not even the full 60 minutes, let's say 40 minutes, through the second period too. This is a completely different game. The Lightning get 2 points and the Leafs get 0. And those are big 2 points in the Atlantic Division right now as well. So it's just been, I think, frustrating overall for the Lightning with the fact that they have shown how good they can be, and we know they can be, and it just seems something is off for them right now. If they're not able to get to the finish line a lot in these games, or they're getting off to a bad start and they can't just finish it up. It's been one which way or the other.
Well, these are good issues to bring up now, especially because we keep looking week after week and kind of counting the points that they're getting. They're still above 500, and I think,
like I said, they're in a divisional playoff spot right now. That's not a bad spot to be without Andre Vasilevsky.
100%. And my prediction at the beginning of the season was if they made it 500 to December without Vasi, I'd think that they did pretty well. And yes, you can say that it's not the goaltending where the issue is lied, but not having Vasi back there allows you to see these defensive issues a lot more crisply and clearly. And if they can get those sorted out by the time Vasi comes back, it wouldn't surprise me if they get all their ducks in a row and really actually come out as a powerhouse come the second half of the season.
He could be back soon too. The Cooper was saying that Vasilevsky could be, I think it's right around Thanksgiving is the time they're shooting for. So which I think is actually ahead of schedule than when he was even supposed to come back. So he was saying he'd be surprised if it was in December. So it seems like Vasi's close.
I'll say from personal experience, having that surgery is like you're not supposed to move for a long while, so it kind of solidifies, but you feel so much better. It's like taking a 50-pound weight off your back, and all of a sudden you're free to move around without pain. So I'm sure that he's feeling really, really good, and if he's ahead of schedule, that he's going to be coming in with some enthusiasm to get on the ice.
I just hope by the time he comes back, some of these defensive woes will be ironed out, so he doesn't have to have everything
50-pound weight on his back.
Exactly. or 50 shot nights on his back, something like that. I really hope these issues that we spoke about from the very first podcast of the season covering hockey games is these are all issues that can be fixed. These are all fixable issues. We can work these out. So again, trust the process. I have faith these things can and should and will be fixed, hopefully by the time 88 gets back on the ice.
Well, and despite the losses, there were still a lot of bright spots, as we've kind of pointed out, which brings me to our 3 stars of the week, because there were some guys that really did have some great weeks, or great week, I should say. And we'll start off with our number 3 star, and it's his first time appearing on the list, a very well-deserved third. He could probably have been the number 1 star if it wasn't for the other 2 guys who we're going to talk about. But that's going to be Alex Bière-Boulet, who, guys, we have talked about a ton on this show and how we could never translate that success from the AHL to the NHL. Well, he's been doing it at least this week. 2 goals and 1 assist for ABB, and he's just looked impressive. Matt, what are you seeing from ABB?
I think we've done a bit of a disservice. We really haven't mentioned him a whole lot this year. He's been in the lineup. I think he missed the first couple games, but once he got in, um, he's really stuck, and he's been noticeable. Not like the other years where he's looked good, in one area of the game, but looked awful in other areas. No, this season it really looks like he fits. He's had major success. I think he's got 3 goals on the year so far. He's made a couple of plays. He's had really good connection with Kucherov and Point, playing on that first line. He's looked very good. He's looked like he belongs, and he's been good enough to where I've actually picked him up on my fantasy team, and that is high praise for a player. I know it's
putting your money where your mouth is, right?
It's corny to say, but like when I see a player who produces, at a little over half a point a game or something like that, or he's even close to. And maybe not anymore, but close to point a game or something like that, especially on the power play. I was picking him up, and he's paid off rather well for me. It takes a lot for me to make lineup adjustments like that. So, dude, he's been really good so far this year.
Yeah, and I mean, taking tonight away where he was a -2 in a game that's hard to be positive, he also, in the Seattle game, was even. In Columbus game, he was even. In the Ottawa game, he was +2. So he's doing some stuff defensively where before one of his biggest criticisms is that that's where his lapses were, and he's looking like he fits for the majority of the time that he's out there. You'll see him miss assignments. You'll see him have some they're not rookie mistakes. He's not a rookie, but just plays that he should tighten up on. But for the most part, he's been fitting in, and this past week really was great for him.
And before we move on from him as well, I also want to note that he's also been moved down from the top line with Point and Kucherov. Like, he's been on the second and third line occasionally, and he's still looked, like he fits. That's kind of the biggest thing, is that he looks like he belongs. And even being demoted to the second and third line, he still is making good plays. It's not like he's being carried by his line mates. Like we would always say, he needs to be in the top 6, and he really does need to be. But even when he's not playing with the elite level players, he's still making an impact out there. So that's another good thing, he can keep in his back pocket there.
He's starting to look a lot better, just like you can look a lot better by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com and check out the awesome team-inspired merch that we have. The Rays, the Rowdies, the Bucks, you name it, we got it. Head over to shop.rblrsports.com. And the best part is, for our awesome viewers here on YouTube or wherever you may be listening, we got a special code for you, code BOLTS, that gets you 10% off your order. Links, as always, are in the description, so be sure to head over to shop.rblrsports.com and check out some of the awesome team-inspired merch we have over there for you guys. All right, number 2 star
Spicy.
of the week. I thought that was a fun one. I mentioned ABB could be one of the top players on this list, but there's another guy who, we were a little worried about because he wasn't able to score early, but he was still getting points, and the dam seems like it started to break open, and that's going to be Braden Point for our second star of the week. 4 goals and 2 assists for a total of 7 points for Braden Point. I don't know if it's just playing Seattle or whatever it is, but man, he is looking great, and that offense is blowing up for him right now.
Yeah, off to a little slow start for Braden Point, but we all know who he is. It's no secret, no surprise at this point. But yeah, finally getting the goals in those back-to-back games really lifted a weight off of his shoulders, and finally starting to find the back of the net, be the guy we all know exactly who he is. That Kucherov and Point connection is, as good, maybe just a notch below, actually better than McDavid and Draisaitl this season. They're one of the best duos in the league and have been for years now. What more can we say? And bringing my fantasy team back into this, I needed Braden Point to start scoring. He was my second pick. I was really stressing more than a lot of people about, his lack of goals, but he's really starting to pay off. He really helped me win last week.
That's funny, man. Going from no goals, and now he's let's see, that first one was against San Jose that
San
he got
Jose.
the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now he's got 6 goals, 16 points in 12 games. It's 1.25 points per game. That's turn it up, especially when the first 10 was it 6 games he went goalless. Yeah, he's a guy that you knew eventually he was going to get on the score sheet more often. It just wasn't
It was a matter of
ever a
when.
doubt. It was just this time when it was going to happen, and to break it loose to get three against Ottawa, even if they weren't the cleanest, for all of them. I mean, he still finds a way to get to the back of the net, and it's one of the guys that you need to have going if the Lightning are going to be successful. And again, not that there was ever a doubt that he would get going, but it still is a relief to see him actually put the numbers up.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Who on earth could top 7 points in a week? That's some pretty impressive numbers. Well, how about Nikita Kucherov, who gets our first star of the week? Holy cow, this guy is on fire. And like anybody's surprised, 3 goals and 6 assists for 9 points this week. Nikita Kucherov absolutely killing it. This guy is just a magician, and he does it like it's just second nature. He doesn't even celebrate half the time when he's scoring these goals. It is ridiculously impressive. Joe, how does he do it?
You know what he's doing a lot is shooting. He is. They showed a stat during this last game. I've noticed he's pulling the trigger a lot more freely, and they put it on paper where I think he's like 5th in the league for shots on net, and we all know how deceptive of a pass Kucherov has, what a deceptive shot he has. Now that he's shooting more, it's going to just keep creating more opportunities for the people around him when he decides to not pull the trigger and instead pass it across. One of my friends sent a message in one of our groups regarding the game that, Friday night, Kucherov was nowhere to be seen in the stats. And come after this game, he's now tied for first place in points in the league. He can turn it on that fast.
It's amazing what this guy can do when he wants to do it. And that's really it. It's just when he wants to do it. And he wanted to do it tonight. He wanted to do it against Ottawa. And just whenever he feels like it, he is, the best player in the world, one of the best players in the world. And he really had a week. 5 points against Ottawa, 4 points against the Leafs tonight. Darn about that, but still, I mean, what a showing from him. Again, tied in the league lead. I think last year was my prediction for him to win the scoring title, but this year he's making a really strong case for himself. Unfortunately, for the third time this episode, for the third time in 3 minutes, I'm bringing my fantasy team back into it. He's absolutely torching me tonight, but it's definitely well worth it. I'd rather Cooch do successful in real life than me losing fantasy. So all is good, and he's the same guy we always knew, and just still getting it done, and still just being one of the most dynamic. That's the best way to put him. Dynamic players on the ice.
Nikita Kucherov is just an unbelievably talented player. It's what more can you say about him? The guy is so impressive. And the funny thing was, after that Ottawa game, I'm not sure what his comments were after tonight, if anybody even got a chance to interview him, but after the Ottawa game, he was like, I could play better. We could be better. And he scored 4. He had 4 points in that game. He did it again tonight. So if he's saying he can be better, where's the ceiling for Nikita Kucherov? He might have a 10-point night coming pretty soon. It's been impressive, and it's been fun to watch. Which is thank goodness he. Right, I don't want to have to play against Nikita Kucherov. All right, but looking ahead here for the Lightning, again, it's been a rough week just because of the losses. Even though the Lightning are getting points and they're fighting in a very tough division. Tomorrow night, or probably tonight as of when you're seeing this, the Lightning will be taking on the Montreal Canadiens in a second half of a back-to-back. So probably going to see Matt Tompkins in the net for that one. And then on Thursday, they take on the Chicago Blackhawks back home at Amalie Arena. And then on Saturday, the 11th, the Lightning taking on the Carolina Hurricanes at 7 o'clock Eastern, again at Amalie Arena. So one more road game to end the road trip, and then 2 more home games after that. Guys, what are you hoping to see from the Lightning over these next 3 games? Joe, I'll start with you.
Number 1, no highlights coming from Bedard. Number 2, to cleanly win against teams who statistically are performing lower than you, which definitely includes Chicago. They're struggling quite a bit still. And number 3, I want to see them really start to clean up themselves defensively. They have a good opportunity against Carolina's a very fast-paced team, the way that they play, and that'll be a big test. Even though they're not doing great on the season, they can expose the Lightning quite a bit with some of their sloppy play, and I think that'll be the next test for them to see if they can take the next couple of games to once again work on some of these lapses that they're having, and work on their drive to close out games. And that's the one game I'm really looking forward to is Carolina.
Yep, they have no reason to lose to either of Chicago or Montreal. Not a single reason. But Joe, exactly what you're saying. Carolina is going to be the test here. That's going to be the benchmark. That's going to be the game where we're going to want to see, these improvements, hopefully, that this team knows they should make, and being clean in their defensive zone. And hopefully, if we have a lead, we can maintain it. I guess that goes across all the games there, but Carolina is going to be the benchmark game. That's going to be the most relevant game when we come back and reconvene next Monday, and hopefully we'll have some better things to say about this team when we reconnect on Monday.
Hey, the last time the Lightning played the Carolina Hurricanes, they had a 3-0 shutout. So they've played well against the Hurricanes so far this season. But I do agree with you guys. That's obviously the big game because it's the one team that's the best statistically. But as we talk about all the time on this show too, this is the NHL. Any team can beat any team. You just never know, unless you're the San Jose Sharks, because they just can't win a single game.
Hey,
it's been rough for them.
Quick question.
Yep.
If the Lightning and San Jose were playing in overtime, who wins?
San Jose. Until the Lightning win an overtime game, I cannot trust them to do it. It's been that bad.
San Jose hasn't won in overtime either. They their only point on the
true.
season was a one overtime loss that they had.
Listen,
that is a immovable object versus an unstoppable force right there. Or it's just two immovable objects.
You know what? I hope when we come back next week, we're talking about 3 overtime wins. Every single one of them. We just break the curse in full force. We win them all in overtime. But, hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another week of the RBLR Lightning podcast. We appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy these episodes. And if you could hit that share button, we really appreciate it. It helps us out a ton. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on social media at RBLR Sports or at RBL Lightning. See you guys next time. The Bolts.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.